Hello, let's get started on our craft. So again, we're doing rain sticks. This is Laura's. This is one that Jason started doing dot art. I think it is a turtle. So we have two options, and they're pretty similar. But if you have a paper towel tube, we'll do that option, and if not, you will make a tube out of paper. But before we make the tube, we need to do our art part. So we were talking about dot art. This is the one that I did, and I'm going to show you how to get started, how to figure out which part of your paper you're actually going to see, because once you roll it up or wrap it around here, you won't see part of it. This part is blank. So let's do that first. Let's figure out which part of your paper you actually want to draw on. So two options. I'm going to get a blank piece of paper for this. So take our paper and roll it around your tube if you have one. And then we're going to use a pencil and lightly mark where the edge of the paper folds over itself. So this is the paper underneath where that edge is. I'm just going to put a line here. Then I'm going to put a light X on the side that's showing so that I'll know which side I want to do my art on. So then I unroll that, and now I can see there's my X and there's my line. So I know that the art that's going to be showing is going to be in this section. If you are just rolling up paper, I would suggest using 2, maybe 3 pieces. I did it with 2 to make it a tiny bit stronger. So you take, I'll do this with 2 just to show you. Take your pieces, roll them up. Now the only difference with just using paper instead of the tube is you have to be a little more careful because it's not quite as sturdy, so it pushes in. It's easier to smash. But same thing. So where the paper folds, you're going to put a line. If you have someone around that can help, you may want to ask them to hold it for you so that it's easier to draw that line. This is a little tricky, especially when the paper pushes in away from you. But same thing. You draw your line, put an X on the side that you're going to see, open it up, and you'll know which part you want to do your art on. So I did mine like this. You can see this part's blank. I won't really be seeing that. This was not perfect, so I did do my art over a little bit so there wasn't a white strip. There, so for my dot art, I also used a pencil and outlined the picture that I want, and then went over it with dots. You can see I covered my line with green and brown dots there, and then filled in the rest. This was meant to be a lizard on the sand. Also looks like a crocodile. That's fine because there are crocodiles in Australia as well. So that is the art part. That may take some time. That may be all the art you want to do, and that is fine. So after you finish that, if you want to do the rain stick part, let's continue on. Okay, so before we put our art on, well, let me back up. I did my art, you can see my tail went all the way down to the bottom. And after I did that, I realized that this cap piece that I'm going to put on is going to cover that. So I decided I'm going to put one end on first before I put my paper on, and then the next end over. So I'm going to show you how to do the cap pieces now, and then we can put it all together. For the cap pieces, you are going to want a pencil, you're going to want your tube, whichever one it is, your paper towel tube or just a paper tube. I'm going to use the paper tube for this. Again, you might want somebody else's help holding this while you trace. So, let's see if you can see that. I have a piece of paper, just a regular piece of paper, on the table. I'm going to trace around the bottom of this. It does not need to be exact. Just a light circle around the bottom. You can see, because it's paper, it's harder to do. Look at that circle. Not even close to perfect. It's completely fine. That's all we need. I'm going to make that a little darker so that you can see it. So that is going to be the part that's going to cover this bottom. But we still need a part that comes up and over to attach to your base. So then I'm going to do a bigger circle around, and that's going to be as much as is going to come up onto your tube there. So that's my center one. I did a bigger one around. This is what's going to come up that I'm going to be able to attach to my actual tube. And you can see I did another. I suggest that you do both your top and bottom at the same time, because once we start putting things into your tube to experiment, you're probably not going to want to flip it upside down with a bunch of rice or beans or pebbles inside to be able to trace the bottom again. So we've got our circles. I'm going to cut the outer circle out. And again, it does not have to be exact, precise, or even all that close. Just needs to be able to attach. So, got my circle with my inner circle. Now, to make it easier, you can see these are folded up so that I can easily tape it to this tube. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start cutting just little slashes in there to my circle, or about to my circle. You don't want to go into it because that'll leave holes for things to come out. Remember, this circle part is the cover right there. So I would err on the side of a little bit farther out away from the circle. But we're just going to put some slices in there so that it looks like a flower. And then, I'll use this. And then I'm going to put my circle side down so that you can't see it. Put it on top of there. Again, you might want hands, somebody's hands to help you. Or I actually used, I lost the rubber band I used. I used a rubber band to help hold it in place. So you might want someone's hands or even a rubber band to hold that. So if you're using someone's hands, have them hold the top, or you hold the top. You push one at a time down and tape each one. Oh, that was a tiny piece of tape. Each one as you go. So fold, tape, all the way around until it's taped on. And that will keep your stuff in. I've been playing with this one. You can hear there's rice in the bottom of it. Okay, so now I have my bottom one covered and a top one ready to go. Now, if you pour rice or corn kernels or pebbles or anything in it, it just goes straight down. It doesn't make the rain noise, it just makes a crash noise. So we need something inside to help block the bits to come down to make the right noise. So we have a couple options. If you have aluminum foil, that is one option. We did that with Laura's. So let's start with that one. If your parents or guardians are okay with you using the aluminum foil, you can do this one. If not, we're going to do paper, which I actually liked in mine as well. So, aluminum foil, you're going to take quite a long piece, and I'll show you why. You want to, this is kind of fun, sprinkle it up long way. And I'm going to smash it pretty tight, even tighter, and then I'm going to twist it around my finger, around something, and then stretch it back out. And I'm going to do even tighter little crunches than that. And what this does is it lets whatever you're putting in there, so I'm doing rice, it lets it bounce off things as it's falling down. So if you have your bottom on your tube, then you can put something in there. Okay, so that's that one. Let me show you paper as well. That's what I did in mine. If you're doing paper, it's the same thing, except for I'm going to use two pieces. I'm going to crunch it up. I'm going to twist, and I'm going to wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to twist it even smaller, stretch it back out. So this is just to make it so that the rice or corn kernels or pebbles or whatever you're using have to bounce around off of something. So let me take that one out. So same thing, then you just smoosh it in there. And I found that this does about half of it, so I use two pieces of paper. So next piece of paper just on top of that. Okay, so now I've got my paper, I've got a bottom on this, I've got my paper here, I've got a bowl so that when I'm pouring my rice, I'm not making a huge mess. So I've already been playing with this. So I have some rice, and I'm going to do this over my bowl. I'm going to pour it in here. Now to test the sound I want, I'm going to cover the open end with my hand. Make sure my rice is at the bottom, and I'm going to flip it over, and that's going to give me an idea of what it's going to sound like after I have this closed up. I might want to add a little bit more rice. So you can play with the amounts. There's no exact measurement. You just figure out what sounds good to you. If you do too much, dump it back out. So after you've figured that out, or before, you can put your art onto your tube, or if you already have your tube made, it's already on there. So all this is twisting it back on. You might start with a piece of tape to hold it there, twisting it back on, and taping it in place. You may tape the tops to hold it in place as well. then once you've got your rice in, you've got your art on, you put your top cover on and tape it down. And there you go. Got a rain stick. So that is our craft project today. I will let you know what our next ones will be. Hope everyone's well. Bye.